Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 1 of the New School podcast, brought to you by Curiosity Lab. I'm joined today by our co-host for the show, today's guest and founder of Curiosity Lab, Boon Chew. I'm really looking forward to this interview for multiple reasons, but one also because I envisioned my own children going to Curiosity Lab one day, and a lot of it couldn't have been started without this guy, the visionary of this show too. So you guys are going to learn a lot about Boon today and the vision of Curiosity Lab and so many other things. So anyways, Boon, welcome to the show. We're going to have you here for a while now as my co-host as we move forward, but could you just tell our audience and for those finding out about Curiosity Lab for the first time, a little bit about your background and how you got this idea?
Yeah, so I run a venture studio. So I work with founders on a daily basis. We basically help them execute their startups, and then we help them implement the technology, help them ideate, strategize, design, fundraise, the whole thing. And so that's sort of my background in school is electrical and computer engineering. I have worked as a game programmer and also have worked at big tech like Microsoft and Amazon. I've done a lot of online games as well. So some of those experiences also sort of lend itself to some of the things I do later in life. And then I started this venture studio about 13 years ago and started working with a ton of really innovative ideas, founders, and we launched the world's first friendship and dating app for autistic people and a bunch of other stuff as well. So that's sort of my background. And Curiosity Lab is one of the companies that we launch out of the venture studio as well.
And in regards to Curiosity Lab, where did the initial idea come from? Like what did inspire you to start it? I know I've been able to see now firsthand kind of what the beta phase of the school looks like, but where did the initial spark even come from?
I think it came from having a kid, I guess, having my 7-year-old son. I had an inkling that something is wrong, right? Because the education is still run the same way for the last hundreds of years, right? And when I realized that my son is still going through that same process, I don't really want him to go through that because I know that AI it's catching on, and there's no way that I would have him go through that same thing. So when it starts getting really desperate for me, realizing that he's going to go through the same system that I went through myself. So that's the reason why I started wanting to start that.
Yeah, totally. I know we talked about it in detail many times previously to now, but that's also part of the reason why we're both here, right? I think we both feel the similar way about our children, their future, and it is time for a new school, which is kind of where we got the idea for the name of the show here as well. Out with the old, in with the new. Tell us about again Curiosity Lab, really the core of all of this, the true learning platform. Again, here today we're just on the podcast, but as far as Curiosity's aim to impact the industry of education, what does that look like?
When I started this, I think the key thing is I really want us to rethink. I want to create a platform to rethink things, because a lot of things, if you look at it, the way it's built, people kind of take it for granted and think that that's the way it should be. So, and this spans many different things, not just education, but education being the most impactful one, right? Especially for the young kids. And so I really want to create something that it's a platform for us to rethink, because I also see that there's a lot of innovation going on in the education space, but once people settle on one way of doing things, they don't rethink. So that becomes its own religion in a way, which is, to me, is dangerous. So Curiosity Lab itself, if it were to be successful and useful for kids for years to come, has to be something that reinvents itself constantly. I don't want to run into a situation where I see a problem, solve it in one way, and just get complacent or settle in that one way. It should be something where we can constantly be looking at and innovate so that it can evolve continuously. And I think that's the way it should be. Then the part of the reasons why I think education is failing is because it's never been the sort of mechanism to rethink and innovate has not really built into the system. There is some rethinking on, there's some innovation going on, but it's very slow. And a lot of times there are many factors that contribute to that. So for me, I think the thing behind Curiosity Lab is really a way to rethink everything from ground up, including how the school should be run, and what education means. What is the purpose of education? And that itself, it's a big topic to, there's a lot of philosophy and a lot of things that go into that, even that one simple question. And that's what I want to do. It's really to open up that question and use Curiosity Lab as a way to not just talk about it, but actually experiment with it and see what comes out.
Yeah, and you used a really key word there as well, which is philosophy. And I think if there's anything over the years that we can look back and see transpires decades, centuries, millennia, as far as information that's just relatable, it always does seem to come down to philosophy. And so what are the core values, for the strategy of Curiosity Lab?
Good question. So again, the core value can and may change over time as well. So we try to make sure that, and none of those things are set in stone. But I think that the key thing is really to look at Curiosity Lab as a way to, first of all, if you ask the purpose of Curiosity Lab is what is education, right? Education is a way to develop a human being. So that's the purpose. And so if you build your core values around that, you basically want to create a platform to promote the development of a human, right? To unleash the potential. So a lot of it, to me, it's really looking at what makes us human, what makes us optimal. You look at adaptability, you look at habits, you look at systems and frameworks, mindsets. All of those things are the things we want to promote through Curiosity Lab.
What do you feel like so far are some of the major milestones that Curiosity Lab has reached so far? And from those milestones, how has that shaped the direction of the school?
The one milestone that really is interesting to me is that initially, when I first started this, I obviously had this desperate need to create something for my son and for the kids out there. But as I started getting into the weed of things, right, as I started executing this, I started realizing more and more that conviction or that sort of desperate feeling was correct. Like every day when I hang out with the kids, I realize how unique they are. They're so unique in their own ways. And when I realized that all those uniqueness are either being ignored or not being acknowledged by a factory model of executing education, I realized that this is the right thing to do. So that feeling at first was more of conceptual understanding, like, oh, everyone is unique. We always talk about that. But it wasn't until I actually go and, guide those kids, those learners, I realized I really understand that in a deep way. Like they are truly unique in their own ways. And so for me, I think this is a milestone. Another milestone is that we are also experimenting different formats. We have in-person. We feel like in-person is very important. We have in 2 locations have in-person class-based programs for kids. Those are important milestones for us because we get to see how the in-person execution is very important. We have also piloted online educator format as well, where we bring on kids from China and US and different countries in the same room using the Zoom session and see that, okay, if we don't do it in person, but we use Zoom, you don't see the in-person interaction, but you do get the cross-border type thing. Now you get a completely different sort of benefits from that. So we have one quest that we call Wandering Quest, where we just wander around. We don't have one specific topic.
Could you zoom in real quick on the concept of a quest?
We're taking sort of the hero metaphor of how every person is a hero on their own journey, and they're gonna go through trial and tribulations in life. So it's not about smooth sailing. It's about really making mistakes, falling down, getting back up, building that character skills. To me, education has to map that. If you're not in school, you're going to be going through that sort of life journey yourself. So we are trying to mimic that, but in a school setting, in a safer environment. But the safe environment should not preclude you from building character skills that prepare you for life. The quest is sort of a metaphor of a hero on a quest, and the things that they do, it may not always end up the way you want it to be, but either way, you're going to learn something from it. And you also want to value mistakes in life and really, really see mistakes as a way to grow. And I really see a way the growth that you have starts happening when you are in a uncomfortable situation. So we're creating all these new sort of ways to see things so that people are not always, sort of gravitating towards happiness or fun things. Those are part of it, but those are not the whole thing of what makes education important for a person to flourish. So that's what it causes.
It's rethinking the entire process, because you think about kids saying, "Oh, I have to go to school." Can you imagine just changing the terminology where it's like, "Oh, I have to go to my quest," or
Yes.
it's time for my quest. It changes the whole mindset. So I just can't help but continuously get excited about what's being built here, especially because we've joked about it, but my kids are at an age where as this keeps progressing, it's going to time up perfectly where they're just going to be able, when it's time to start school, the new school will be up and running by then. So on that note, could you talk about some things that you're looking forward to, the future of Curiosity Labs, maybe just the entire education industry as well, but what would you say you're most excited about or optimistic about right now?
I'm very excited about the fact that we are taking control of education for our own kids. That to me is very exciting to me because we're not just outsourcing them and get busy with our own work and then let someone else execute that. I think having control over something that is so important for your kids is a very liberating feeling because you feel like you have a way to direct, you have a way to affect the execution. A lot of institutions that are in place these days, they will allow you to have a little bit of perceived control, but it's not really true control. You can give some feedback, but there's a lot of factors that could cause the feedback to not really happen. So my sort of aspiration is for this to be global. We will have a full-time school eventually, but we will also have this after-school program spread across the world in a way where whatever the learnings and system that we built, we share it with Curiosity Labs from around the world. So that now you have a network of schools that are formed globally, and the kids can learn from each other. And then we will have technology built in-house that we can share with all the Curiosity Lab schools and kids for them to flourish, right? For them to benefit from. So that's what I'm looking for. It's the global presence. It's the fact that, yes, you get a lot of value from being able to interact locally with the people that are in your neighbor, in your inner circle, but you're also able to learn from people from outside where you are as well. So you have a much higher sense of culture and global presence and all of that.
Global presence it's just such a powerful statement and focus for the future here. And I say that, I guess, mainly, I would say purely based on my own personal experiences, and I'm sure you can relate because I know you've traveled around and lived in a few places around the world, but I think you gain confidence in yourself. You gain awareness in like what's really going on in the world, and to be able to just know what's going on outside of the borders in which maybe you were born in or raised in is super, super, super helpful for, I don't even know what the right word is, just getting smarter is maybe what I would call it. Awareness. We'll call it boost of awareness. So the global presence to me is exciting too, because I'm just thinking about our kids being able to go on a quest with, children from South Africa or India or Russia or, you name it. It's super exciting. Plus, I know there's an in-person component to all of this too. And so, you know what, on that note, for anyone who's tuned in right now, interested in not only learning more, but maybe even getting involved, what would that process look like?
The quickest thing is for them to go to curiositylab.ai, check out the website. They can also email me at boon@curiositylab.ai, or even call me and we can just talk. I love talking to parents about their pain points, about their kids. Those are the good channels. And we'll be launching a newsletter soon for Curiosity Lab, and also the podcast that we'll be doing with you and me, interviewing guests from, different just professions. That's going to be very useful for the kids as well, right? I really want the kids to learn from adults. And I think those things that we're going to be doing soon with the podcast and the newsletters are going to be super useful for parents and kids.
Awesome. Boon, before we sign off here, what is maybe the one piece of technology, and I'm answering my own question with this because the answer is going to be I was going to say, what's the one piece of technology right now that you think could really help speed everything going on with Curiosity Lab up? I know for you it is AI. Can you talk about some of the ideas you have with AI to help increase the speed of education for the children?
Yes. So the key thing is that we're not looking to accelerate or decelerate. We just don't want to hold them back, right? I think the key thing is really to understand that talent is developed by making things just challenging enough for them to push themselves. So we can promote that continuous growth. Because if you stay where you are, and human tendency is that if you're not progressing, then you're falling backward, right? So the one thing I see with AI is a kind of like a hammer. We used to have to use the hammer to build a tool for that tool to be useful for what we want to achieve. And so one of the things that I can see, so this is a good question you asked there. One of the tools that I can see that could be useful is a growth tracking platform, what we're building right now. So the growth tracking and portfolio management are two things that are kind of intertwined. What that does is it allows the kids and the teachers to track the things that the kids are sort of learning, whether it be physically or mentally and intellectually. All of that can be tracked through them documenting, right, the things that they're learning, the skills and the outcome goals and all of that. So out of those tracking will come the work that they produce through learning. It could be painting, drawing, could be a book that they built today, it could be new skill that they learned today, would be fencing or whatever exercise. They track all of that themselves, and with adults help as well. And then you have the other piece, which is a portfolio piece. That piece shows you kind of like your achievement, how you're sort of the milestones that you sort of reach. And so you see how this is like a solid resume that you're kind of building along the way. And so you can see that by the time when you reach high school, you can see how you came to where you are now. What are the things you've been doing? The key thing with this is that we are also creating enough data for parents and maybe with the help of AI to make informed decisions on things. So no longer are you just throwing your kids into random activities without having any sort of guidance from data or from AI and that can become sort of not very optimal. There's a lot of energy wasted, money wasted, time wasted, taking your kids going around participating in different after school activities without a way to really quantify that. That I think is going to be very useful for parents.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it just reminds me of a book I read once, and I'm sure you're familiar with Peter Thiel. I don't know if you read his book 0 to 1, but he talks about, what is it that differentiates, for example, companies like Apple from the rest, and from the genesis of Apple and companies like that, whether they realized it or not, viewed themselves as their own genre, or in this case, the new genre, the new school. And even putting the word school on it actually kind of puts it in a genre. But I think that's clearly, I know that's the direction this is going. It is a new genre, which will then influence other aspects of what could be considered the world of education, where by Boon, by you taking the lead here and me coming along for the ride, there's going to be things that other platforms see that Curiosity Lab is doing that they're going to implement into their culture as well, by taking that strong step forward and creating something truly new. So that's all the time we have for today. We're going to bring this thing down for a landing. Again, one more time, what's the best way for anyone tuned in today to follow up and get in touch with you and check out the project?
Yeah, they can go to www.curiositylab.ai, and they can email me as well at boon@curiositylab.ai.
Perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for investing your most valuable resource with us here today, your time. This is episode 1 of the New School, a Curiosity Lab.AI podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're joined today by our guest, Boon Chew, who's the founder of Curiosity Lab and also the co-host of this show. We're looking forward to episode 2. We'll see you there. Remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.